I have no notes ready for this video, but when do I ever have notes ready for a video? Hello everyone, my name is Olivia and welcome to a new Books and Brews. This is a series on my channel where I recommend 5 books that I've recently read. Let's get right into it. I don't have coffee, I don't have tea, I don't have anything with me besides a bottle of water because I'm just not in the mood to drink coffee or anything, but grab your preferred beverage, or if you're like me and you just want water today, grab a cup of water and let's sit down and I can talk about some amazing books that I have read. Most of these are 5-star reads, which is fantastic. So the first book that I want to talk about is a book that I read for a reading blog. The reading blog was centered around reading books that remind me of The Great Gatsby because I had 2 books on my TBR that had the same vibe, and one was A Sky Painted Gold by Laura Wood. This is a book that I went into without knowing much about it, and I didn't hear a lot of thoughts about it from friends or other reviewers, and I went into this book and had such a great time with it. This book follows our main character, Lou, who comes from a very normal, very large family, and she gets swept up into the world of the Cardew siblings when she bumps across them when she is spying on a party that they are throwing in their house. So we follow Lou and these 2 siblings as Lou goes to their parties, and she's learning more about the Cardew siblings because they do have a darker history than they let on to other people in the world. If you're a fan of The Great Gatsby and Pride and Prejudice and Bridgerton, with those 2 romances that are just so good, they're such a slow burn that you just yearn for, and they're just little moments here and there that makes your heart patter, then you are going to love A Sky Painted Gold. I think it's one of the prettiest YA novels that I have read in a while. It was absolutely fantastic, so lyrical, so beautiful, and I just cannot recommend it enough. This was such a complete surprise, and I'm really happy that I picked it up. So fun, and also incredibly underrated because I don't see anyone talking about this book. The next book that I want to talk about is actually a book series, and it is a comic book series, and it's one of my first comic book series that I have ever read, and it is the Moon Knight comic book series by Jeff Lemire. I have been trying out the Moon Knight comics here and there because I have a ton of them on my Libby, so I've been trying out different creators who were working on the Moon Knight comics. I started out with the original creators and then kind of got more into the modern editions that have come out. And the one that I love the most is the Jeff Lemire collection. I don't know if it's called a collection, a series, edition. I'm very new into the comic world and I just don't know the terminology, so bear with me and be kind to me in the comments. But the Jeff Lemire series of Moon Knight comics is just absolutely phenomenal. The art style is wonderful. The show is much more faithful to these comics rather than the older comics of Moon Knight that I have read, and I just thought it was amazing. It was such a fun trip to see the different art styles that Moon Knight has had throughout the years, and this art style was definitely my favorite. It is much more rustic and rough around the edges, and it uses negative space because Moon Knight is a white hero, so all his outfits are white, and they use that negative space cleverly throughout the comics, and I thought the story was fantastic, immersive, and just addictive to read, and I had a great time with it. So if you're ever trying to get into the Moon Knight comics, I would highly recommend the Jeff Lemire series because I think if you are a big fan of the show, then you would greatly enjoy these comics. The older ones are a bit more dry in my opinion. My attention wasn't really held when reading those, but this one was my absolute favorite. And if you're looking to get into comics in general, I would definitely check out your library or Libby if you're able to access that, and also check Reddit because a lot of people are very helpful and they list out which order to read all the comics in, and that was a big help to me. So that's how I got into the Moon Knight comics. I wanted to mention them because I thought they were just beautiful, stunning, amazing. Give it an Oscar. Give it an Oscar, Isaac. That was a bad joke, but it's fine. Anyway, I love Moon Knight. Moon Knight's one of my new favorite heroes in the MCU. Obviously, I'm very biased because I love Oscar Isaac with all my heart, but it's a fantastic show. It was a great show. It's a great comic. It was a great time overall. The next book that I want to talk about, I have spoken about in so many videos because I just am obsessed with it. So I'm not going to talk too deeply about it because I feel like you've heard me ramble on and on about Untamed by Glennon Doyle. This is a nonfiction about breaking the barriers of yourself. It is about becoming untamed in the best way possible. It is about breaking the barriers of society and your own self-doubt and your own way that you have been brought up and trying to live your life for yourself. This is one of my favorite nonfictions and essay collections because I found it so profoundly relatable in the way that Glennon Doyle looked at different aspects of her life and different experiences experiences and kind of broke them apart and analyzed them through a feminist lens and the way that she looks at society, finds all its faults, and thinks of different ways that it can be improved, how we can improve ourselves, improve the relationships we're in, our workplace, our friendships, and our community. I have highlighted this book forwards and backwards. I have annotated it. I have just thoroughly enjoyed taking my time with this nonfiction because I have learned so much from it. So I'm just gonna turn to a random page, find a highlight that I thought was profound, and I'm going to read it to you. If women trusted and claimed their desires, the world as we know it would crumble. Maybe Eve was never meant to be our warning. Maybe she was meant to be our model. Eat your own wanting, eat the apple, let it burn. This nonfiction is just so good. It reminds you of your worth and the way that you should carry yourself throughout life and the way that you should really recognize your own power and hone in on that and hone in on your intuition and the way that you navigate your world. I thought this nonfiction was absolutely fantastic, and I loved the way that Glennon Doyle shared her own experiences and was very vulnerable, but also take this with a grain of salt. This is not a self-help book in a way. This is more like an awakening that Glennon Doyle had and she wanted to share with others. And it's also told from Glennon Doyle's experience. So it's not a universal experience. This is just one woman's experience. You cannot go into this novel thinking that it's going to talk about every aspect of humanity and womanhood because she is only speaking from her own lens as a white woman. Don't go into it thinking you're going to find a universal experience because every person's experience is unique. So keep that in mind. Another book that I absolutely loved that I also gave 5 out of 5 stars to. I think every single book that I'm going to talk in this video I have given 5 out of 5 stars to, and it is Finding Me by Viola Davis. Viola Davis is one of my biggest role models. She's someone that I look up to and have looked up to for years upon years, and this nonfiction was absolutely beautiful. It was raw and honest, detailing the accounts from her childhood, the racism that she faced along the way, early on as a child, all the way to her life today. She also speaks about the abuse that she had to deal with as a child, growing up in her family, and the way that she overcame all those different obstacles that was put in her way. She faced so much strife and so much struggle, but she overcame it and really believed in herself and her craft and her artistry and became this successful, inspiring, beautiful woman she is today. And I am just so in awe of her and in awe of these stories that she told, because you learn so much more about Viola Davis as a person rather than a character on a TV show or Viola Davis on the red carpet. You really learn about her childhood, her family, the way that she grew up, and the way that art and acting really pushed her to try and find a better life for herself. And learning more about Viola Davis in any way possible was a dream of mine. I've always told people I wish she would write a nonfiction because I would love to learn more about her story. And we did learn a lot about her story in this nonfiction. It was beautifully written and also beautifully narrated by Viola Davis herself, so it felt like you were having a conversation with her. It's a great nonfiction if you are interested in Viola Davis in any way, or if you're just looking for a beautiful memoir. I would highly recommend Viola Davis's Finding Me because it was moving, beautiful, stunningly narrated, and beautifully written as well. It was raw, honest, everything you would need and more in a beautiful, heart-wrenching, inspiring nonfiction. Absolutely fantastic. Definitely one of my favorite reads of 2022 and one of my favorite reads of all time. And to close out this Books and Brews, I have a cute romance novella that I have to share with you, and it is Under One Roof by Ali Hazelwood. Ali Hazelwood is the author of The Love Hypothesis, which was one of my favorite romances and one of my favorite books of 2021. So Under One Roof follows our main character Mara, who inherits a house from her professor who she grew really close to during college. So when the professor passed away, she actually gave her house, and she moves into her house and realized that half of it is owned by this man named Liam, and he is the grandson of the professor. So Mara has to share this house with Liam because they both equally own the house, and it is a very sticky situation because they get off on the wrong foot and they are practically enemies, but then quickly fall into friends and then fall into lovers. So it's that really fun trope where it's enemies to friends to lovers, and it's also the roommate trope. So it is such a cute romance novel. It is so quick to read. It's like 150 pages, so you get through it really quickly, but I just loved their banter back and forth. The only thing that I have to say is I wish there were like 2 more chapters where we got to see them as a couple, because I feel like it ended pretty abruptly right when they got together, and I wish we had 2 or 3 more scenes where they are actually together as a couple, because I really would have liked to see that dynamic. And I know people are like, it's a novella, it's supposed to be short, but I want to see them as a couple. I want to see that interaction, and I wish the novella was slightly longer or maybe edited down a little bit so we had more room to see them as a couple, because I feel like that's the one thing that was lacking in the story. But other than that, I had such a great time with it. It was super cute, heartwarming, and just what I needed as a pick-me-up. That is the end for another Books and Brews. Out of the 5 books that I read in this episode, I gave 4 of them 5 stars, and I cannot recommend them enough. They were such fantastic reads. They quickly became some of my favorite reads of 2022 and some of my favorite reads of all time. I have a lot of nonfiction, I have romance, I have historical fiction, and my dive into comic books, and I am just so excited about all of these books. Let me know if you have read any of them, what you think about them. I would love to discuss them in the comments, and let me know what other video ideas you would like me to pursue in the future, because I would love to take your video ideas into account. If you want to follow me anywhere else on social media, all my social media links will be down below, and if you want to subscribe to see more videos from me in the future, be sure to do so. Be sure to like, comment, and leave a book stack emoji down below. If you've stayed this far in the video, thank you so much for spending your time with me, and I will see you in another video very soon. Bye!